All right, hello innovators. Tomorrow we're going to start our research for our argumentative biography. And in order to be successful with that, we need to address the topic of citing evidence in our writing. And there are two ways that writers can do that. We can either quote, and this is when you've heard cite textual evidence, and we can also paraphrase. Do you know the difference? Let's find out. So all of this is to avoid getting stuck caught plagiarizing. Plagiarism is a really big deal, and so we want to avoid this at all costs, and today you're going to learn how. So we have, there's me, we have two options. One is the first option. When you're putting evidence into your writing, you can cite evidence. This is the same thing as quoting evidence. So I will use these terms interchangeably. They mean the same thing. We've said citing evidence a lot in class, and you might hear quote evidence in other classes or in high school. So what this is a word-for-word repetition of a text framed with quotation marks, which we've had a lot of practice with. And here you're going to see an example of that. So the words that are popping up right now come straight from a text. I did not change them. I did not add anything. What I did was I took a sentence out of the text, word for word, and you'll notice that I put quotation marks around it to let my reader know that I got this information from somewhere else. This parentheses right here, I will show you what that is in the next few slides. So you may have also heard of paraphrasing, and I know a lot of you already know what this is. So paraphrasing is to put the text into your own words. This means you are rearranging the words. You can use synonyms, and basically you're saying what the text says, but in a simplified way. You do not change the meaning of the text, and you also do not add your own opinions or insights. That it completely changes everything. So here you'll see an example. I'm going to take that piece of textual evidence that I cited or quoted earlier and state it in my own words. I will paraphrase it. So she was also recognized for an ability to connect to younger generations by remaining attuned to popular culture. The author is actually talking about Michelle Obama. So I took this text, I kind of tried to think about what it means, and when you do say, mean, matter, the mean portion is really the paraphrasing part. So I took some of the words and I tried to find out in my own understanding what the sentence means, and I rewrote it or paraphrased it to say she was popular among young people because she remained informed on popular youth topics. Both of these sentences mean essentially the same thing. What I've chosen to do as a writer myself is to paraphrase the original text. I know you might be thinking, how do I know which one to do at which time? I don't have time to learn all this, but I'm going to show you right now a really quick way. So citing evidence or quoting evidence instead of paraphrasing. Usually if you're given a task that says to cite, that's what it's saying. It's not asking you to paraphrase. But also if you are given freedom and choice between citing and quoting, when the words of a passage are interesting, unique, or otherwise too useful to lose in a paraphrase, you want to cite it. You want to put it exactly as it is written. This basically means if the way that the author already wrote something is really, really good and you can't make it better or more clear, then you're going to cite it with quotation marks. Now on the reverse, as writers, we can also paraphrase instead of citing or quoting. So there's two things that we can do. Two clues of when we should paraphrase instead of citing. So one thing is when you are including dates or other common knowledge that can be found in many sources. So for example, let's say a text says, Michelle Obama was born in 1952. That is a really common fact. So I wouldn't need to cite that. I would just say that in a different way. In other words, paraphrase. Another time when you paraphrase instead of quoting is when you can state the ideas of the source more clearly and concisely than the original source. Also, this means if you think you can do a better job at making your reader understand something, then you should paraphrase. Let's keep going. Now, we are not quite finished. We now understand the difference between citing or quoting and paraphrasing. But no matter which one you are using, you always have to give credit where credit is due. This means that you have to tell the reader of your writing that you actually got information from another author, a different source. So you have two options to avoid plagiarism. The first one we call a lead-in. So a lead-in is when you lead into your citation or paraphrase by telling the reader where you got the information before quoting or paraphrasing. We have done this a lot, so let's look at an example. So here's my lead-in. I say, the author of The Real Mrs. Obama. The Real Mrs. Obama is in quotes because this is the title of an article. And this is my lead-in, this first part. The author argues. And then here, the rest of this is actually my paraphrasing. So the author of The Real Mrs. Obama argues that Michelle is the most popular First Lady of our generation. Again, these first two lines, that's what you call the lead-in. And then these last three lines, that is me paraphrasing. Let's keep going. Second option for using an author's work and giving credit is called parenthetical. So after the citation or the paraphrase and before the period, you insert the title of the article or the book or whatever you're using in quotation marks in parentheses. And I'll show you what this looks like on the next slide. Something to note here, which is also something you need to write in your notes, is that if you will be citing from two websites, which we will be, and let's say they have similar article titles, which they probably will, it may be appropriate to replace the article title with the website name. So since we have two sources, two websites on biographies, it's very likely that those two websites are titled the same thing, Michelle Obama Biography. And so what we need to do is we need to replace this article title now with the website name, meaning is it biography.com, history.org, whatever. I'll show you what this looks like. So here's an example of a parenthetical giving credit to an author. Here is the quote directly from the text. Again, I know it is not paraphrasing and I know it is a direct quote or citation because of the quotation marks. Notice that there's no period here. The period is way at the end. And before the period, but after the quotation marks, this right here is the parenthetical reference to where I got the information, and I put it in parentheses. That's why it's called parenthetical. So my source is history.com. In this case, I chose to put the website name instead of the article name because the article was titled Michelle Obama Biography, and that's very vague. It's a very common title. So that is everything. Right now you should have completed your closed notes. If there is anything that you are missing from your notes, feel free to rewind the video, listen again, and fill in those notes. Right now you can go onto your Lesson 18 classwork, which looks like this, the practice You'll answer Part A questions, Part B questions, and Part C questions. If your partner next to you is also finished, you can work on it together. If your partner is not finished, start individually, independently, and then when your partner is done, you may work together in a whisper voice. If you have any questions, raise your hand.